focused on in my administration is making the streets safer, prioritizing safety over speed. And the people of Milwaukee should be able to travel our streets and do it safely, regardless of age, regardless of ability to move, regardless of transportation type. A mother should be able to walk across the street in this city with their child without fear of being struck by a motorist that doesn't yield. A person who decides to traverse the city on a bicycle should be able to ride to and from work without wondering if somebody is going to end up passing them on the right or in a bike lane. A young person just learning how to drive should be able to drive the speed limit without being tailed in the way that is aggressive and causes fear when they're just learning how to operate a vehicle. As a city, we need people to drive the speed limit and practice safe driving behaviors. The City of Milwaukee's Department of Public Works has been designing and building streets across the city to help lower speeds and reduce the levels of traffic violence. And together with efforts like our recently adopted Vision Zero action plan, shout out to Jessica Weinberg, who leads our Vision Zero efforts here at the City of Milwaukee, we're implementing a safe systems approach all across the cities, not just here, but in neighborhoods literally all of Milwaukee. And I'm excited to share with you some of the positive impacts of our recently completed traffic calming projects in the city. On Washington Street, where we're all standing, the street was recently repaved through our high impact paving program. Curb extensions and pinned on concrete bump outs were added to reduce crossing distances for pedestrians and require people to slow down as they make turns in a neighborhood like this. Traffic circles like the beautiful and landscaped traffic circle that's literally just behind us now were added throughout the corridor as well to slow speeds at intersections and create an east-west bike lane, or Bike Boulevard rather. All told, these improvements reduce crashes by 32%, which is really positive news for people living in the Walker Square neighborhood. Up on the north, on Burleigh Street, between Roosevelt and Sherman, paint and post bump outs at intersections reduce crashes in that area by 39%. And a similar project on Kenwood Boulevard near the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee reduced crashes by 13% and injury crashes by a whopping 78%. 78% reduction. On Highland Boulevard, we reduced the number of travel lanes to better align with the volume of traffic that we're seeing on that street. By taking the street from four lanes down to 2, adding protected bike lanes throughout the corridor and bus boarding islands at several of the intersections throughout the corridor, we reduced crashes in that area by 44%. 44% down in the number of crashes in that corridor. Our large reconstruction projects are having a big impact on crash data as well. The Humboldt Boulevard reconstruction saw a 49% reduction in crashes post-construction with curb extensions at intersections. Now, all of this progress brings us closer to achieving our Vision Zero goal of 0 traffic deaths by the year 2037. Now, to share more about the impact of recently completed projects on speeding, I'd like to welcome City Engineer Kevin Muse. Kevin, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mayor Johnson. As he said, I'm Kevin Muse, City Engineer for the City of Milwaukee. As the Mayor shared, the Department of Public Works continues to be diligent in our efforts to lower speeds and increase safety on our streets, and we actively look for opportunities to include traffic calming in every project that we can. On Wind Lake Avenue, not too far from here, near Hayes Bilingual School, 30% of drivers were speeding before our raised crosswalk was installed. After the project, we measured just 2% of drivers speeding. That's a 93% reduction in speeding in front of this grade school. A little bit further west, we saw similar results near Mitchell Park on Pierce Street, where a pair of speed tables reduced speeding by 31%. We're going to continue to focus traffic calming efforts near parks and schools to make sure kids and families arrive safely to these key destinations, no matter how they choose to travel. It's also vitally important that we calm traffic on our major corridors and efficiently utilize space to move everyone safely, whether you're walking, biking, riding transit, or driving. Van Buren Street downtown is a great example of how a street can be redesigned for all users. The new corridor features a 2-way protected bikeway, bus bulbs for in-lane boarding for transit users, curb extensions and pinned-on concrete bump outs to help people walking cross the street safely, and turn lanes and a lane of traffic in each direction to make sure those driving can still move efficiently. Van Buren is a great example about how a street designed for people walking and biking is safer for everyone. The percentage of people speeding on the street is down 85%. On Howard Avenue, traffic analysis during the design phase for this major reconstruction project helped our team understand that the street could accommodate the traffic traveling on the street with 2 driving lanes instead of 4. By reallocating space to behind the curb bike lanes along with curb extensions and pedestrian refuge islands, speeding has gone down 32%. Over on the east side's North Avenue, the protected bike lanes and the bus boarding islands and pinned-on islands added last fall have reduced speeding by 67%. And finally, the mayor mentioned earlier the impact of this project completed right here on Washington Street has had on crash data. We're pleased to share that we've seen that correlation we'd expect with speeding impacts as well, with speeding down 55% right here along Walker Square Park. It's now my pleasure to introduce Peter Hurdle-Mayrose from Walker Square Neighborhood Association to tell us more about how the completed project and other traffic calming efforts in the neighborhood has impacted lives.
Good morning. My name is Peter Hurdle-Mayrose, and my partner and I have lived in the Walker Square neighborhood and been active members of the Neighborhood Association for about 13 years. We've started a family here, we know our neighbors well, and we care so much about the safety and vibrancy of this neighborhood. And we can say that we are so grateful for the traffic calming that has been installed, especially here on Washington Street. We have 3 kids, and our oldest is 9 years old. Before the traffic calming, we would never let him cross the street on his own, since cars would whip around corners, through stop signs, and down the street at excessive speeds. Now, having some of these physical barriers in place gives us more peace of mind. Kids should be able to walk across the street to their neighborhood parks without being in danger from speeding vehicles. A group of neighbors has worked hard this year to get the Walker Square Farmers Market back up and running. We have 2 more Sundays left from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. if anyone wants to come by. It has been so wonderful to see the community building that happens at the farmers market. Families stroll through the park, linger to buy some food, sit down for a while to listen to the music. And I love that my older neighbors can walk a few blocks and cross a few intersections without having to worry if they'll get across fast enough. Residents and visitors should be able to stroll to the neighborhood farmers market, not have to nervously race across the street to beat a vehicle driver. Some days I bike with my kids to school, and it can be a nervous experience. When motorists are driving their cars around us at 30, 35, 40 miles per hour or faster, any mistake can be very serious. Whether it's a driver getting distracted by their phone or one of my kids swerving as they bike along. What I can tell you though, is that now that our street has traffic calming, it's more forgiving. Drivers are moving more carefully at 10, 15, 20 miles per hour, and I know that a split-second mistake is less likely to end in tragedy. Plus, it's pretty awesome how much quieter cars are when they're going slower. And I should say, we get that there's a trade-off. When we do drive our car to the grocery store or soccer practice, it can take us a couple minutes more. But when we're talking about kids walking to the park, or older neighbors visiting the Sunday farmers market, or families biking to school, there is no question that a calmer street is a better street. To wrap up, we are so happy for the progress that's been made on traffic calming, and we commend and thank those who have been pushing for this and who have made it happen. People like 16th Street Clinic Environmental Health, Wisconsin Bike Fed, people like City Engineer Kevin Muse, our Alderperson and Common Council President Jose Perez, and Mayor Cavalier Johnson, and many others. At the same time, we know we have a ways to go. The news of tragedies is still too common, and that doesn't have to be the case. Our streets don't have to be a place for vehicle violence. We need to keep rethinking and redesigning our streets so that they are for people, not just for cars. Because we care about having a beautiful neighborhood with social connections and thriving businesses. Honestly, more than we care about driving our car to the grocery store in 7 minutes instead of 9. We're beyond excited, for example, to think about National Avenue being a place a few years from now that we might actually want to spend more time on. Let's make all Milwaukee streets safer, more enjoyable, and more beautiful. Thank you. And I'll pass it back to the mayor.
Thank you, Peter. Look, Peter's story, his family's story, the story that he talked about in this neighborhood is why we do this work. It's why we have this vision for our streets and prioritizing safety over speed. Safety over speed, so that his kids can come to the park without having the fear, so that the senior citizens that he talked about are able to come to the farmer's market without fear, right? And I like the line you said, a calmer street is a better street. And we want to see more of those throughout Milwaukee. But as I mentioned, we are in the 12th Aldermanic District, represented by the City Council President, Jose Perez, and so I'll present him to you at this time. So, Mr. President, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Street calming measures are great, and this data is so impressive. I want to thank Peter, Nicole, and his family. It's a pleasure representing you, and I want to tell them and the rest of the community, we hear you, and we'll continue the work. I'm thankful for the collaboration around the funding and the execution of the construction of these roadways and these amenities that make our streets safer. We know that when pedestrians, bikers, and operators of motor vehicles are safer, when adequately designed roadways that reduce speeding and reckless driving have an effect. Ultimately, we got to use all the tools we have to stop the behavior that's leading to the pursuits and reckless driving in Milwaukee. And you heard Peter mention that all you have to do is just look at recent events in the news. But we got to make sure that we're continue to educate, intervene, strengthen penalties to those that are causing death and destruction on our roadways. And we must exhaust all forms of technology to improve traffic and pedestrian safety. Street calming measures are needed and warranted to get us to a better and safer place on our roads, but we must never lose sight of the root cause and what that necessitates the implementation in the first place. We are quickly approaching the 10-year anniversary of when the Fire and Police Commission modified the pursuit policy, allowing for broader criteria which MPD can chase vehicles. I believe that we're at a critical juncture at this point in time, and we must do a deep analysis of all those options and costs associated with reckless driving and speeding in Milwaukee. Items related to both capital infrastructure, such as street calming and personal accountability, must be equally addressed for us to get a handle on this situation. And I'll continue to work with the administration and especially my Common Council colleagues on approving appropriate legislation to combat reckless driving and seek changes in existing policies that either seem outdated or are just simply not working. Reckless driving is hurting Milwaukee on every front, and you can imagine that we all know it must be stopped. Thank you very much. And I'll turn it over to the mayor again.
All right, thank you very much, President Perez, for those comments. I also want to take a minute to recognize Alderman Peter Bergelis, who has joined us as well from the 11th Aldermanic District. Thank you for being here, Alderman. As I mentioned before, my administration is encouraged by the positive, very positive impacts that traffic calming projects have created in neighborhoods all across the city. The Department of Public Works, led by our Commissioner Gerald Kreschke, will continue to monitor both speed as well as crash data on projects completed in neighborhoods all across the city. We know that this work, it makes a difference. You heard that in Peter's testimony. We have the data to prove it, and we'll keep building to make sure that Milwaukee streets are safer and better for everyone who calls Milwaukee home and everyone who uses the streets to get from where they are to where they need to go. That's also why we launched 414 in Motion. It's the city's first ever citywide transportation and mobility plan. 414 in Motion will build on efforts like these and use data-driven as well as community-guided approaches to set long-term vision for the future of mobility in Milwaukee, creating safer, creating more connected, and more accessible streets all across the city. So together with these efforts, they demonstrate our commitment to a transportation system that works effectively for people who are walking, people who are biking, people who are driving, people who are using public transportation, and everyone, literally every single body that moves throughout the city of Milwaukee. And with that, we're happy to take a couple questions.
Mr. Mayor. Hi.
Yes, hi Tom.
When the Trump administration canceled the grant to remake 6th Street and these traffic calming measures, has there been any look at an alternative way to finance some of those things past the fund?
I'll leave the commissioner or perhaps the city engineer to touch base on that a little bit more, but I mean, I'll just say off top, that was a significant dollar amount. It was a significant and competitive win that the city of Milwaukee was able to apply for and win that grant. It was $36 million, $36 million bucks. So you can imagine that in a city that has the financial difficulties, the challenges that we have in Milwaukee, it's very difficult to come up with the resources to replace that sort of grant, the sheer size, the dollar amount of a grant that sort of level. So from my understanding, we're not able to move forward with that project, at least not now, but perhaps with some additional work, we may be able to find something. If it's continuing to go back to the federal government, if they change some of their policies, maybe there's an opportunity. If there's more to add to that, I'd welcome the city engineer to opine on that.
The mayor did a great job covering the details. Never not impressed with his memory. Yeah, 36 million there. So we did. We are we're on the first step of that project. That money was not rescinded through the action of Congress and the Trump administration. So the public will see a couple rounds of outreach and a couple additional steps towards design and environmental review, which would have been our first step either way. But yes, the remaining 34 million, as the mayor said, is a real challenge to come up with given our fiscal limitations. We're going to continue to explore other grant opportunities through the state and the federal government and try to find other partnerships, but we don't have a solution for that right now. But there will be more ones, essentially the first step will still be taken on that project because that money was not rescinded.
What are the traffic measures, the traffic calming measures that you have planned or ongoing for the 35th and Police Street? Neighbors over there talk about how that's a very dangerous intersection and there's not enough.
Yeah, so I can certainly understand that, especially given the profile of the incident that just occurred out there. So 35th is on our high injury network, which is a collection of streets across the city where the overwhelming majority of the life-changing injury and death-causing crashes occur. So we are continuing to look at options there. We did have some improvements on 35th, I believe south of that stretch not too long ago. So we'll look at whether or not we can make similar types of traffic calming improvements there. There were some median islands added and some pinned-on concrete bump outs, basically serving as curb extensions in the past. We'll look to see what else we can do. But obviously a high-speed chase is a very challenging thing to use concrete infrastructure to mitigate. But we'll continue to explore that and see if there's anything we can come up with in the near future.
Are there any other, I mean, for example, like you kind of said, like National or other streets that are coming up soon for traffic calming projects?
Yeah, absolutely. So as we've been doing each year, we're going to continue to work through our, we have traffic calming projects that are, I'll say just traffic calming projects. Then we have our paving program where we integrate the traffic calming into it. So the transformation of National Avenue is a huge project. It's going to take 2026 through 2028 to construct it because it's going all the way from 39th Street to 1st Street, which is almost the entire extent of National Avenue within the city's borders. So we'll start on the west end of the city next year on that project. Other ones that are upcoming, Roosevelt Boulevard, we're planning to do some more enhanced traffic calming on the stretch that's on the high injury network there, up basically southwest of 35th and Capitol. We have others coming next year. Anybody from others that were? Lisbon, thank you. Yeah, so we're continuing work on Lisbon. We actually have two separate projects on Lisbon. So we have our major construction project on the far northwestern side of the city, which will extend down to 60th Street next year. And then we also have a project on Walnut and Lisbon from 20th to 40th, again installing more traffic calming and extending the bike lanes that end at 20th right now further west to connect more parts of the city, provide those pedestrian benefits and benefits for people biking and driving as well.
I just wanted to add also that we've lobbied the state pretty hard, and they finally found some planning money. If you look behind you, you have on and off ramps to the expressway on Mineral here in 9th and on Walker, and they are now studying what that would look like to reconfigure the on and off ramps so they are closer to National Avenue, which will make a huge difference here because we have cars speeding from 11th Street, going right through the stop sign, going right through that one with children and people in the park, and getting on the expressway at a really high rate of speed or coming off the expressway that way, and we want that to stop in and out of neighborhoods. So we are looking forward to that planning process. They're engaging community stakeholders, and we really want to see not only they be reconfigured properly to get off and on at National Avenue, and then it could potentially free up several acres of space, I think, to develop for the community, and that would create a much better connection between Walker Square, the near south side, Walker's Point downtown, and we're just looking forward to what that could look like.
When can folks in that neighborhood on 35th expect those projects to be finished? I talk to people in that neighborhood, they see the production, but they also complain that there's a lot of debris, a lot of construction debris left, and it just feels unfinished. And then when will the project move from south to the other side?
Speaking specifically on the 35th Street corridor, yeah, so the 35th Street project is complete and has been for a couple years. I'd have to look and see what else might be going on in that area. We often have utility work happening across the city that folks think is a DPW project. It may not be. The county also, to give the county credit, got a grant looking at 35th Street as a corridor for how we can improve safety and transit. They are planning to move forward with that project. I'd have to check with them on the timeline, but I believe that was over the next year. They're hoping to get that done. That would modify that corridor and slow speeds in that area as well.
I e-bike. I love the bike lanes, the protected bike lanes, so thank you. Mayor, I got a question for you. Is there any technology that your office is looking at to make drivers aware of high-speed chases as they're going on? Maybe say phone alerts to let people know?
Yeah, I mean, we're always considering what options are. Those are some things that I've been thinking about myself about how we can alert people, because I know there's been a lot of conversation around high-speed chases as of late. Again, I'll repeat that I believe that one of the most effective things that we could do in order to eliminate these chases is to have people, when the police are approaching them, if they're driving recklessly, as for instance, when the police approach them, is to stop, is to listen to the officer commands to pull the vehicle over and not proceed with the chase. But we're always considering what our options are.
Have you considered maybe controlling the stoplights? I had a viewer mention that maybe that was a solution during a police chase to control the stoplights so folks know. Is that something that can even be done?
Well, I mean, I'll allow the DPW to opine on that. I mean, I can tell you just from my own thoughts on this. I mean, reckless drivers, people who decide to flee from police, they don't generally tell us which direction they're going, right? So it would make it difficult for us to be able to program a particular, light in order to do that. But perhaps there's something that could be there. So I'll let the DPW chime in on that a little more.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. There isn't really the back-end technology necessary for a situation that's as dynamic as a chase situation. So most of our signals in the city are actually on time clocks, so they operate the same way at the same day, same time, every time. There are some solutions we're exploring to encourage people, and actually the Common Council talked about this a couple years ago, and we're continuing to roll it out to modify the regular operations later at night of signals so that it encourages people who are following the law and driving responsibly just to remind them to pause when they're coming in the green through. So we're continuing, we've rolled that out in some intersections. We're continuing to look at where that will make sense. But there's trade-offs with all of this, and so it's not necessarily obvious that the signals are the solution to the problem.
Mayor, Alderman Perez mentioned potentially, after this 10 years of that police pursuit policy being changed, re-examining it and looking into it and looking at our options. What's your response to that? Is
Look,
that something that you're interested in?
Yeah, I mean, like again, we look at all the opportunities that are available to us. As I've said before publicly, I mean, I think it's important for us to understand that a policy change in the city of Milwaukee does not change policy in our surrounding jurisdictions, and pursuits will still happen. They will still occur. They will still enter into the city of Milwaukee. We saw that when that policy was changed and removed some years ago. As a matter of fact, when the city, I believe, when the city's policy changed, it encouraged an eruption of reckless driving activity to happen in the city that we're working now to get under control. But yeah, I mean, we always consider the opportunities that we have before us, and we should consider the opportunities that we have before us to make the city safer for everybody.
Mayor, do you have any reactions to last night's officer-involved shooting? Any concerns, as we saw a number of them throughout this year? And that was somebody who was fleeing on foot, we heard, and then going for a gun that he dropped. Is there any concerns or reactions that you have from that last night?
No, I don't have any concerns relative to that. I got a briefing on it just this morning, and my understanding is what you just said. I mean, there was an individual who was being pursued by police on foot, dropped his gun. I haven't seen the body cam footage. I would imagine, just after having seen a number of these over the years, I would imagine that officers said, "Hey, you know, first of all, stop! Don't continue to evade, and certainly don't pick up a deadly weapon right when you're being pursued by police." And that obviously did happen. Which, if it did play out that way, which again I don't know because I haven't seen the body cam footage, then that would have been another disobeying of officer commands and actually reaching for a deadly weapon when officers are seeking pursuit. So I know I don't have any concerns at this time, but I just got a briefing this morning. I still have to see the body cam footage.
We have time for one final question, guys. One final question.
Sorry, Kevin, if you're back there still, regarding protected bike lanes, specifically, I know a few years ago the city was doing some cost comparisons with kind of some of the newer stuff we're seeing with the concrete solid barriers like on Michigan Street versus the delineators like we see on Van Buren. Going forward, has the city decided we're sticking with the newer method, or is it going to be case by case?
Yeah, each corridor is different, so we're going to respond with the design solution, both that we think is appropriate and that we can afford given a specific project's budget. But generally speaking, yes, we're leaning towards and trying to emphasize concrete barriers wherever we can, again, afford them and we think they make sense. They're not a perfect solution in every circumstance, particularly with if large vehicles need to make a turn, like a bus might need to make a turn or something like that. But that's the way we're leaning. It's safer for everybody. We think they're more aesthetically appealing versus the delineators, and then also it does have lower long-term maintenance costs for us.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, sir. Thanks, Joe.